What if you could help the planet, delight your employees, and save money, all by rethinking the office beverage station? Tune into this episode to find out how. Hello, friends. You are watching or listening, depending on the platform of your choice, the Green New Perspective podcast, your go to place when you want to learn about innovative technologies reshaping our today and tomorrow and discover marketing strategies that help these innovative tech companies grow in today's market, which is ever changing and quite unpredictable. My guest today is Sean Grundy, the co-founder of Bevy, a company that is turning tap water into customizable, eco-friendly experience and taking aim at single-use plastic. Bevy is a company that grew quite fast from an idea to a booming brand. So if you stick around and tune into the episode, you're gonna find out how they managed to do that, what marketing tactics helped them on the way, and how they managed to keep the culture strong while growing fast. So yeah, stay tuned.
This episode of Green New Perspective is brought to you by New Perspective Marketing. For over 20 years, New Perspective has helped future-focused B2B tech companies grow by building thought leadership, attracting better qualified leads, and driving pipeline growth. If you're ready for smart strategies, measurable results, and a partner who's invested in your success, visit npws.com to learn more.
Hey Sean, welcome to the Green New Perspective podcast.
Hi, Dunya. Thank you for having me.
So can you start by telling our audience a bit more about yourself and how you started Bevy? Started as a bold idea, so what's the origin story that people might not know about?
Yeah, so about myself, I honestly don't have the most interesting background. I was born in New York, grew up in a combination of New Jersey and New York, went to college and studied philosophy, which was probably a terrible decision in retrospect. I worked for an environmental nonprofit for a few years. I was very motivated to do something related to environmental conservation. And then I went to business school with the goal of essentially combining an environmental mission with what could ultimately become a large and profitable and impactful business. While I was in business school, I met my co-founder Eliza, who didn't go to school with me, but we were both living in Boston. And the idea for Bevy actually comes from Eliza rather than from me. So the idea is to offer, well, what Bevy does is design water machines that purify tap water, store different natural ingredients, so like natural flavors, vitamins and supplements, CO2 for sparkling water, and then let people create a wide variety of drinks without wasting single-use bottles and cans. So we're a very mission-driven company, like with the goal of eliminating single-use bottles. But we do that we accomplish the mission in this very practical way by selling beverage machines. And I'd say that the nonprofit background that I have, like that kind of environmental background, was shared by Eliza. She also came from an environmental nonprofit. And so both of us were learning on the job, not just how to grow and build a startup, but even how to work in a for-profit environment. We were doing a lot of learning on the job in the early years. But I think what has really like influenced our growth and our development over the past 12 years now is that like core ethos of wanting to do environmental good, and then combining that with a real business.
As far as I know, you've scaled from a startup to B2B quite fast. So what was the first we made it moment?
Yeah, we've raised quite a lot of venture capital over the years. Like we've raised over $160 million. And the first real round was a $2 million round in 2015, led by a small VC fund called Tamarisk. And I remember that enabled us to get our own office. It was a terrible office in a basement in a bad neighborhood in Boston, but it still like, enabled us to get our own office, start building a team. Like I would say that it started feeling real when that happened.
And you've mentioned that you're a mission-driven company. Is there a way for you to measure the environmental impact of your machines, both internally and for your customers?
There is. So our machines are, well, I'd say there's a way for us to estimate it, but pretty accurately. So our machines are internet connected, And the purpose of the connectivity is really to manage operations. It's because all the machines need to be replenished on an ongoing basis with concentrates for flavored and functional water, with CO2 tanks for sparkling water. Filters to purify the water need to be changed on a kind of on a variable basis depending on usage levels. So we manage the supply chain of all of those consumables in the machine via an internet connected system that's giving us real-time data of what's happening. And what we realized is like once we have that IoT, like Internet of Things system, once we had that set up, we realized that we could capture all sorts of additional information too. And one of the things we look at is just what is the total volume of beverages that we're dispensing from each machine. And since most of the time when Bevy goes into a customer's office, we're replacing a refrigerator that used to get stocked with single-use bottles of water or cans of sparkling water. Because we're replacing bottled water, we can estimate based on our usage levels how many bottles and cans we're saving. And then we can translate that into a carbon footprint estimate based on just life cycle analyses, like kind of academic life cycle analyses done, showing the impact of a point of use system versus a bottled beverage. So we use that to basically provide total bottle saved and carbon footprint impact to our customers. So in addition to like being motivated internally by this bottle number, we share it with customers and they often include it in their annual sustainability reports. And it's worth mentioning, like to date, we've now saved over 750 million single-use bottles and cans. And we have this goal of reaching 1 billion by the end of the year, which candidly is not going to be easy to hit. Like I'm not confident we're going to hit it, but I'm optimistic that we'll hit it.
Well, that's a good outlook to have. Since you come from the NGO sector, I assume that you care about the sustainability part. How do you get your customers to care, like actually care, instead of just saying they do or reporting about it?
So I have a different stance on this. And the truth is, I don't mind whether or not our customers care about sustainability. And I'd say especially get excited when a customer that doesn't care about sustainability still wants our product. And this is something that happens where, so it's funny, like with most of our sales team, when our sales team pitches Bevy, they'll mention sustainability, but it might be the third or fourth point that they mention. Like they'll start with, here's how Bevy saves money relative to bottles and cans. Here's how Bevy saves time because you don't have to spend like the labor hours stocking refrigerators or placing orders. And they'll even talk about just like the health and wellness benefits, the drinks people like. And then maybe after all that, they'll mention, and we have this sustainability benefit. When I pitch Bevy, I still just out of a habit, like out of the old habit, I always lead with sustainability. I always lead with like, we started the business to eliminate single-use bottles and cans. And when I talk to customers, sometimes that really resonates. Like some of them care a lot about it and are actively looking for a sustainable solution. But other times people will straight up tell me they don't care. They'll literally say like, oh, you can skip this slide. Like I don't care about the carbon footprint. And they'll often get our product anyway, just because their employees like it, because it saves them money, because it's efficient. And I think it's really important because if we could only land customers that genuinely cared enough about sustainability to let that affect their purchasing decisions, I think we'd be much smaller in terms of like revenue and scale than we are today. Like I think to scale, it's really important that we can appeal to mainstream consumers. And the truth is that just most of the mainstream does not highly value sustainability. So we really need to be able to compete in other ways. But what I'll say is like not just for Bevy, I think in general, if there's some big environmental benefit, there tends to also be another benefit that coincides. It could be cost savings from energy efficiency. It could be higher quality. But I think typically if a product is really made with a kind of environmental consciousness, it tends to have some other benefit beyond the sustainability benefit.
Do you feel that kind of communication was one of your biggest marketing approaches as you scaled, or it was something else maybe?
Definitely. Yeah. So I'd say we started off really focused on the sustainability, but as time has gone on, we now focus much more in our sales and marketing efforts, we focus much more on cost savings, time savings, sort of, I'd say like the core metrics that would apply to almost any business decision. We tend to focus on that. I will say that sustainability still helps us. Like it never hurts. Like if the economics are strong and if people like the product, it's always an extra benefit to also offer some kind of sustainability value, but it's rarely enough to actually like make a customer want the product. I'll say that it is a foot in the door for us. Like often what we found, so we go to market B2B, like we sell or lease our machines to now over 6,000 companies throughout 4 countries. Our clients include a lot of like about 30% of the Fortune 500. It's like a lot of big companies. And what we find is within those companies, there are always individuals that care a lot about environmental sustainability. And if the company previously offered, say, cans of seltzer or bottles of water, there were always people that were disturbed by that and like bothered by it enough that they would reach out and get in touch with us. And often what's interesting is that people that care aren't necessarily the official decision makers that we're selling to. Like they're often not the budget owners of food and beverage decisions in the company. They might just work on like the engineering team or the finance team or in any division, but they happen to just be like passionate about it on a personal level. And often those are the ones who bring us in and like arrange our first meeting. But then once we end up in a meeting with whoever is the budget owner, the pitch usually has to be very economically driven, and then sustainability is like an added benefit.
B2B marketing is shifting fast. In our latest marketing trends report, we dug into what's moving the needle for growth-minded teams. A few standouts. AI is changing personalization fast. Trust-building content is outperforming polished sales pitches. And hybrid events are replacing static webinars. Whether you're in strategy, sales, or execution, this report helps you align with where the market is heading. Get your copy at mpws.net/trends. That's mpws.net/trends.
Let's stay on this marketing path. Like, which one of the marketing channels have you doubled down on?
Yeah, there have been a lot of marketing efforts over the years. We've been reasonably creative in terms of what we've doubled down on. Events. It's funny because I feel like when I talk to a lot of other companies that scale, like a lot of my friends run software businesses, like just like people I know from the entrepreneurial community, and a lot of them have shifted away from events like trade shows and other things like that because they're expensive and because it's pretty difficult to really like quantify their value. Like it's pretty difficult to know if you got a deal because someone saw your product at an event 3 months ago, or if you would have gotten that deal otherwise through other means. Like it's not as easy as like digital marketing to track the value and to basically do attribution of like where your deals came from. But we've become huge believers in events, mainly based on a lot of anecdotal evidence that it helps our sales. Like something we'll hear, like I was actually at an event in Phoenix this week, just on Monday, and someone came by who was already in touch with our sales team and was considering getting our product, and then tried our product in person. And I'd say with Bevy, we're a very experiential product, right? Like you have to actually taste the water, try the beverages, explore, like play around with the user interface of like how you customize a drink, select flavors, right? Like all these options. It's so experiential that until you try it in person, it's hard to know exactly what we're selling. So literally on Monday, someone who had already been in touch with our team and was considering the product came by, saw the product in person for the first time, tried Bevy water, and then told us on the spot, okay, I'm gonna tell my colleagues to like go ahead and place the order. And it's funny because in our marketing attribution system, like in our CRM, the data will show that we were already in touch with that customer, that we met them in a different way, like probably through cold email outreach. And the data won't show that the event is what actually like led to the deal closing. But in reality, the event really helped there. And I'd say we hear stories like that a lot, that just like getting to experience the product is the most important thing. So like this year we're doing tons of events. Like we did like a few of like the huge tech events. We were like one of the water providers. We're doing probably like at least a trade show or event per week with like hundreds or thousands of people in attendance. So like a big part of our strategy is just get the product physically in front of people and get people to try it. And when you think about it, that's actually like the old school, old fashioned beverage playbook. Like it's just let people try the beverage and make their own decision.
I have to say, a lot of my guests here on the podcast echoes your thoughts on events, even though some of them do not have a product like yours. But for the networking part, they're still doing their job. And it's kind of a surprise since we were in that, kind of COVID mindset where events were not that popular for some time. So I guess they're back now and back with the boom, right? Everyone is visiting events, conferences, workshops,
I'm
webinars.
genuinely surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm surprised for two reasons. Like I'm surprised both that post-COVID events came back in such a big
mhm,
way, and I'm surprised that your guests are finding events to be so useful because I feel like for a long time the guidance in marketing was to focus on attribution and basically making sure that for every dollar you spent, you could trace what was the value of that dollar and see like where exactly did the lead come from. And with digital marketing, it's really easy to do that. Like you can see who clicked an ad and then whether or not they end up buying. It's just it's much more like of an achievable measurement system.
yeah.
But with events, it's so difficult. So I'm surprised that other companies are feeling confident spending their limited budgets on events, just knowing that it's so much more difficult to do attribution.
Maybe we'll just, we were just maybe kind of missing some of the events, sitting behind our desks for quite some time. So maybe it's that part as well, like the emotional thing, like being in the crowd, within your talking with your customers, things like that. Maybe that's also the part of that equation. I don't know, but definitely events are back.
That's awesome.
And when we were talking about COVID and events, and then back to office part, your machines are tracking office habits. So what are the biggest return to office trends that you see?
Yeah. So it's funny, I mentioned earlier that we built out our IoT system to manage operations, but then we've been able to get all sorts of other data and insights from it. And one of the big insights we realized we had actually like during the pandemic was just what industries or what regions of the country were actually going to the office and like what were those workplace attendance trends. We again didn't build out our IoT system thinking about this. Like we didn't really think about the value of knowing what days a week or what hours per day different companies were in the office, but it's since become really useful, both for just general learning about what's happening in the market, and then I think also being able to like customize our sales and marketing efforts and even customize our products to some extent around workplace habits. So let me talk about trends we're seeing in the data. Unmistakably, quarter over quarter, more and more people are going back to the office. That is for sure what we're seeing. So it's gradual. It's like a very gradual change, but we're seeing like I'd say pretty consistently about people in the office about two-thirds of the time. So let's say about three, sometimes more days a week. We're seeing that in our data. There are regional variances. So for example, like we see more people going to the office in New York and Boston than we see in say San Francisco. But even in San Francisco, we're noticing a lot of big companies are starting to just gradually increase the amount of time, the average amount of time people are spending in the office. We're also hearing anecdotally from our customers some relevant insights. One is that they're typically looking at their own competitors and looking at how much their competitors are requiring people to come in and using that to guide their own decisions. So it might be like one big bank waiting to see what two other banks do to decide like if they should make people come in 3 days a week or 2 days a week or 4 days a week. But overall, we're seeing the trends increase. Um, and I'd say our data very much like matches what you read in the news about this, and also matches matches anecdotes. Like one of the things we've seen is that more companies who are recruiting are putting some in-person time commitment in the job descriptions than before. So we're seeing a lot more like companies saying must be willing to come to the office 3 days a week or 4 days a week. Like that's very much trending up.
Oh, I'm sad to hear that since I love
I
to work
I know,
from home.
love the remote work. Yeah, it's tough. I will say that like one thing we found is that like one thing we found in our data was that people tend to in the hybrid schedule, like when they come in, spend a lot more time in the office. So like one of the things we observed is that even though people may only be coming in 3 days a week, when they're in, or even 2 days a week, let's say, when they are in the office, like we see a lot more, we track it based on total beverage dispenses per machine. We see a lot more dispenses per day on those days that people come in than than we saw pre-COVID. So it looks like people are really like putting in longer hours. And I know we also noted that we see more dispenses coming in before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. than before. So like it does seem like people are still getting a lot of office time, even though uh, they're doing it across fewer days in a week.
People are making their little office parties, right?
Hmm.
After hours,
Totally.
hanging out. So let's go back to your mission, to Bevy's mission. How did you ensure that the mission and culture stayed strong as the team and the customer base expanded?
Yeah, this has been really tricky. So I would say that in the beginning, almost everybody, or literally maybe everybody who joined us, cared a lot about the sustainability mission, and that's why they joined us. And part of this is like when we were starting out, like let's say the period of 2013 to maybe 2016. Um, when we were starting out, we didn't have much to show for ourselves, right? We didn't have a working product, we didn't have revenue, we didn't have really funding. So anyone who was joining was taking a big career risk. And I would say that Bevy was not obviously positioned for success. Like chances are we were just going to fail and run out of money. Like just based on the odds, right? Based on the startup odds, there was probably a 90% chance we'd fail. And anyone who joined and was willing to give up the security and the salary of like a proper job to take a risk on like a unfunded or very, very low funded, still like quite unsuccessful startup had to care a lot about the mission. Otherwise, there's no way they'd be crazy enough to do that. So people were very motivated. Once we started getting business traction and actually starting to grow quickly and getting real revenue and like raise more rounds of venture capital. Also, as we grew, we started raising rounds of capital from famous investors, right? Like some really like big name VCs. That obviously created a ton of benefits and like good opportunity and let us start succeeding. But it also created a challenge in the culture. Actually, I'd say two challenges in the culture. One is just when you're growing very quickly, like we expanded between like 2015 and 2020, we expanded from about 5 employees to over 150 employees. So like one challenge in the culture is literally just the rate of change. Like you have so many people joining, each of them bringing their own cultural norms, their own personality, right? Their own sense of like what a business should be and like how to act in the workplace. Everyone bringing all those changes does inevitably impact the culture pretty significantly. So that's one challenge, just the rate of growth. But the other challenge is a lot of people started joining us, honestly, not so much because of the mission, but more because we were doing well. Like they just wanted to be part of a successful startup and viewed it as like, oh, this is a rocket ship. It's growing quickly, right? It has good, like really respected investors. This seems like a good place to build a career. And that's tricky because then, right, then you can have people who maybe are very talented and good contributors, but don't deep down at a fundamental level care as much about the sustainability mission. And I think to some extent that's inevitable. What we've tried to do over the years is we do pay attention to it. Like an example is I'll have people, honestly, this happened to me 2 weeks ago, interview for jobs and literally show up, whether it's on Zoom or in person, show up with like a bottle of Poland Spring or something. Like they literally show up like drinking a bottle of water. And I'll immediately, no matter how good they are, like no matter how impressive their background is, I'll immediately like I won't end the interview. Like I'll still be polite and finish the interview, but I'll immediately write them off. Like to me, it's immediate. Like, okay, there's no way we can hire this person because not only do they not care about the mission, but also like they didn't even like spend time on our website. So so that's bad for two reasons. So I'd say we still make sure there are no like kind of egregious displays of like not caring about our mission. And we definitely do view it as a benefit when people care. Like we do view it as like something that factors into our hiring criteria. Like if someone say had interned at or volunteered at a environmental nonprofit, even if that was many years ago, we still take that as a positive. Or if someone had say like studied environmental science, even if again, their career since then has had nothing to do with it. We do always factor that in as like as a positive, but I'd say we don't, aside from that, we don't truly like screen for it. It's something we more try to talk about internally, educate people about, explain why it matters. Also, like one crazy thing in the US is that the quality of bottled water in many ways is worse than of tap water. And often people don't realize that. So I think one of the things we'll do when we hire people is educate folks on that. So we try to keep it pretty front and center in the culture from that perspective. And like an example is actually tomorrow, our whole team is doing a pre-Earth Day like event where we're focusing on additional ways beyond our core mission that we can make the company more green. So it's still something we like talk about internally, care about, and spend time on. One thing I'll also add, though, is I think it's very important that we hire people that care both about the mission and the business, because there's a flip side to this. Like there are times we'll hire people who are truly motivated by the environmental mission only and don't really care how the business does. And that can also create conflict, just because like to succeed, we have to do both things well. We have to achieve the environmental mission and the business has to like survive and grow. And I think to hit both goals, like we need the vast majority of our team caring about both.
So what's the next big opportunity you're most excited about? Be it a product, a market, or something else entirely?
Yeah, I'm really excited about ongoing international expansion. Like we're seeing success in the UK and Ireland after launching there just in December. So if that continues to go well, will open up in more countries. So I'm excited about that. We have an improved version of one of our machines coming out this summer that I'm excited about. And I would say that in general, our product roadmap is really motivating to me, just like continuing to make the products better and better in every dimension, from details of the user experience, like the flow rate and the carbonation level, to offering a wider variety of beverages and like more and more healthy options for people. Yeah, we have, I'd say, like a very full product roadmap that I'm excited about.
And my last question for you is, what is your number one piece of advice for leaders who are scaling fast?
I think the hardest, but probably like most important part of hypergrowth is putting the right executives in charge of the various teams and being thoughtful about stage relevant experience. And this can be really difficult because let's say you're scaling from like 1 million to 10 million in revenue. The leaders that generally I'd say like the leaders that were the ideal fit for us going from 1 million to 10 million in revenue were not the same as the leaders. It was a different profile from the ideal leaders to get us from, or who got a million to 50 million or 50 million to 100 million. As these stages occur, I think the profile changes. In our case, what we saw was like earlier on, just true functional mastery is probably the most important thing in a team leader, right? Like if it's an engineering team, it's who is just like an amazing, could be a mechanical engineer or electrical or software engineer, but who's just like a true master of the craft. Same with more of like the softer skill departments, like same with sales. It's like who's an amazing salesperson to lead the team and kind of lead by example. And usually it's a small enough team that there's a lot of learning by osmosis. You can just watch what the other person does, see how they make decisions, see how they solve problems, and learn from that. As the company scales, I think just like strong managerial skills become increasingly important. And it doesn't mean that functional expertise doesn't matter anymore. But I think as we've scaled, we've had to focus much more on like not who's the best salesperson or who's the best engineer or who's the best marketer, but who's great at organizing a large group of people, who's great at recruiting, like who's great at kind of like in a disciplined manner, deciding what skills we need on the team and going out and recruiting those skills, who's great at training and coaching and keeping the team cohesive and aligned, who's a good communicator, like both written and verbally. That becomes a lot more important as the team grows and, you know, there are just like more things happening. So I think that my best advice for people driving scale is to just be really thoughtful about who are the right leaders for the right stages and making sure you're surrounded by the people who can help you get to whatever your next stage goal is.
And if our audience is interested in getting to know you better, to learn more about Bevy, or if they want to get in touch with you if they're a potential customer, where can they do that?
Well, our website is just bevy.co. We couldn't afford the so we're not .com. And then my email is just Sean@bevy.co.
Well, thank you, Sean. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dunya. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for tuning in to Green New Perspective. This podcast is proudly sponsored by New Perspective. We are a Boston-based marketing agency working with Cleantech clients solely for over 20 years now. And if you want to check out how we help our Cleantech clients to grow, you can click on the link in the description of this episode. If you like what we do here with the podcast, giving some amazing people from all over the clean tech space a place where they can showcase their innovative tech aimed at combating climate change, you can support us in so many ways. You can leave reviews, comments, or consider subscribing to our channel on your favorite streaming platform. We've noticed that around 75% of you who are regularly watching our show are not subscribing. So just by hitting that subscribe button, you could help us to grow, to get even more people from the climate tech space and create additional content. So please consider doing that. Thank you in advance. And of course, thank you for tuning in to this episode, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.